Hello everyone, and welcome to day number 33, dividing decimals. So it's such a beautiful day outside. Make sure you go out and get some fresh air and just enjoy the sun, which I am going to do in a little bit. All right, so let's get into it. Today we will be dividing decimals. So just a little vocabulary. When you look at a division equation, such as this one, 30 divided by 5 equals 6. 30 is called the dividend. The dividend is the number that will be divided. The 5 is the divisor. The divisor is the number that does the dividing. And 6 is the quotient, which is the answer to a division problem, division equation. Okay, so let's go ahead and try to look at what the first page looks like. So here, oops, I have the answer key here. I'm looking for, can't show you the answer key now, can I? All right, so here you have a division problem, and it asks you to rewrite the division problem using this division bracket, if you recall. Well, what number goes on the outside and what number goes on the inside? Well, the divisor would go on the outside and the dividend goes on the inside, and I'll show you what I mean, okay? So if you have a problem, such as the first problem, it looks like this. The first thing that we need to do is get rid of our decimals. So we look at both and we say, which number out of these two would take more movements to the right? Well, this one, because I would have to move 1, 2 to get rid of the decimal. So since I moved 1, 2 to the right, then I'll go ahead and move 1, 2 to the right here as well. So I'll go 1, I'm at the end, so that means I have to add a 0. So the new problem becomes 16, right? Which is our divisor, goes on the outside. And the 560, which is the dividend, goes on the inside. So now that we're trying to figure out division, we want to figure out, well, how many 16s can I take out of 5? Well, that's too small, right? Because 5 is smaller than 16. So we can now say, well, how many 16s can I take out of 56? Now, sometimes you have to do a little bit of guess and check. Sometimes you can use your reasonableness with numbers and your fluency with numbers to figure out what the closest factor would give you 56. But if not, you can just try. So for example, if you were to guess, well, maybe 16 times 3 is 56, then we can say, on scrap paper, 6 times 3 is 18, carry my 1. 1 times 3 is 3, plus 1 is 4. Well, 48 is smaller than 56, so let's try 16 times 4 and see if that works. Well, 6 times 4 is 24, carry my 2. 1 times 4 is 4, plus 2 is 64. Well, that's too big. So then we would have to use 16 times 3 equals 48. So I'll put my 3 on top of the 56, and now I need to multiply. Well, 16 times 3 is 48, and I will put 48 right underneath 56, and now I will subtract. Make a subtraction sign, draw a line, and I would say 6 take away 8. Well, 6 is too small, so I'll borrow from the 5. Make it a 4 and make this a 16. Well, 16 take away 8 is 8, and I'll bring down my 0. And now I'll start the process of division again, and I'll say, how many 16s can I take out of 80? Well, I already know that 16 times 4 is 64. That might work, but let's try 16 times 5 to see if it either is 80 or is it too big. Let's just try 16 times 4. I'm sorry, 16 times 5. 6 times 5 is 30. Carry my 3. 1 times 5 is 5, plus 3 is 8. That works. So my answer is 35 in that case, okay? All right. So let's look at the next page. The next page for today's assignment looks like this. You have a bunch of division problems that you can solve on scrap paper, and once you find what your quotient is, you can just move it into the white space here. So I'm actually going to try the second one on this page, just so we can go over it, okay? All right. So now the same thing. We need to figure out, well, which number will take more places to the right to get rid of the decimal? Well, I can see right here, it would be this one. So let's count. 1, 2, 3. Well, if I went 3 places right here, I have to also do 3 places right here. So 1, I'm at the end, add a 0. 2, and add another 0. 3. Now remember, our divisor goes on the outside, so we have 400 on the outside because we got rid of the decimal, right? And on the inside, we will have 12, okay? Because these zeros no longer count because they're in front of the number, right? And there is no decimal. All right, well, how many 400s can we take out of 12? Well, that's too small, so what should I do? I can add a 0. Okay. Well, now, how many 400s can I take out of 120? That's still too small. So let me go ahead and add another 0. Now, when we add a 0, we need to put a decimal. Because every time we add a 0, right after the last number, we put a decimal, go on top, and bring up your decimal. Okay? Well, now we can say, how many 400s can we take out of 120? We already know it's too small, so we'll put a 0 on top. Well, how many 400s can we take out of 1200? I know it's 3, because if we did 400 times 3, and if you didn't know, because we already know that 4 times 3 is 12, so it would make sense that 400 times 3 is 1200. But if you didn't know, you can just do a guess and check, and you could see 0 times 3 is 0. 0 times 3 is 0, and 4 times 3 is 12, and it matches. So my answer would be 0.03 in this case, okay? All right, let's look at the last page. And the last page, you will find 4 word problems. And again, it involves dividing decimals. So we're going to look at problem A. Marisol rents a bike in a city she is visiting. If she pays $10.50 to rent the bike for 14 minutes, what is the average price per minute? So we're going to divide $10.50 divided by 14 just to see what the price is per minute, okay? For 1 minute, right? It's kind of like unit rate. All right, so now we can see here that the only one that has a decimal is here. We're going to move it 1 place to the right. So we also have to move it 1 place to the right for 14. So since there isn't a decimal, we'll make 1. And then we'll just go ahead and add a 0. So now we'll have 140 on the outside and 105 on the inside. How many 140s can I take out of 105? Well, this is too small, so I have to add a 0. And remember, when you add a 0, you have to put a decimal first and then put a decimal on top. So now we can say, how many 140s can we take out of 1050? Now, if you weren't sure, you could just try 140 times 5 times 6 times 7. I'm going to try 140 times 7 to see if that works. So we have 0 times 7 is 0. 4 times 7 is 28. Carry the 2. 7 times 1 is 7 plus 2 is 9. Well, that might work because it's smaller than 1050. But let me try 140 times 8 to see if it either equals it or if it's too big. Well, 0 times 8 is 0. 4 times 8 is 32, carry the 3. 1 times 8 is 8, plus 3 is 11. Well, that's too big, so I have to use the 7, okay? So go ahead, and since 140 times 7 is 980, I'm going to put that underneath, and we have to subtract. 0 take away 0 is 0. 5 take away 8, well, that's too small. I can't borrow from the 0, so I'll borrow from the 1. Make it a 0, make this a 10. Now I can cross it out, make it a 9, and make that a 15. 15 take away 8 is 7. So now we still have a remainder of 70, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to add another 0. And we can say, how many 140s can we take out of 700? Well, again, we can do a guess and check. We know that 140 times 7 is 980. Let's try 140 times 6. Now let's try 140 times 5 and see if that works. 0 times 5 is 0. 4 times 5 is 20. Carry the 2. 1 times 5 is 5, plus 2 is 7. And that works exactly. So my answer is 75 cents per minute. All right, so try the rest on your own, and I will see you tomorrow in day number 34. Bye-bye.